How did things go? Anything notable? Nothing. Are the other 2 floors like this one? Exactly the same. They only contain 3 big rooms full of offices. Where did Kate go? Why is he not with you? Well, it's not the easiest thing to explain. It is. Naomi showed up and requested to talk to him privately. Huh? Where was she? It can't be though. Naomi shouldn't be here. It's time to stop, Isla. Don't keep going when it's clear you were wrong. Why shouldn't she? We were about to move up to this floor when Naomi came from the 2nd. I'm positive she came from the stairs. From the stairs? Shouldn't you guys have inspected floor 2? We did. It's very possible she was on the crystal floor since there was no place to hide on the 2nd one. And she voluntarily appeared to talk to Kate? Pretty much. It looked like she wanted to talk to Akro first, but as soon as she saw Kate, she forgot about him. Well, she approached me first because I was closer to the stairs, then they went down to talk. Yes, we finished up floor 3 and have been waiting here since we looked at the 2 bathrooms. They left about 15 minutes ago. Did you not try to follow them? What did they... Did you not try to follow them? What did they want to talk about? Naomi went ahead and asked us not to follow them, so unfortunately I had to abandon my plan of tagging along. Realistically, if they made sure to be alone, we couldn't have done anything to eavesdrop without being noticed. The quarters here are pretty tight. It sounded like they wanted to talk about confidential matters. When I first saw Naomi, I got really surprised, but her face must have looked even more distressed than mine. She looked preoccupied and determined at the same time. That's how I'd define her when she was insisting to talk to Kate privately. I see. We were debating the contents of their talk just now. I gave Akro the rundown regarding Kate and he hadn't really considered anything. I still think you're overthinking a few things, but I can't deny they are the 2 most suspicious people. Sai really thinks they're up to no good. Am I being unreasonable? If I was wrong, they would have told us the main gist of it. Naomi might not have been with us the whole time, but she must have been conscious of the situation and our perception of her, but she barely acknowledged us. I'm still trying to process everything. So, Naomi really was here. This means that the most likely scenario is that she was the one to leave the suitcase downstairs, right? Yes. She might not have been aware of how wary we were of her and openly showed up to talk with the other main suspect. Kate also looked surprised, so perhaps he thought she should have remained hidden. Regardless, it's safe to assume they're now talking about their plan. You should trust them a bit more. Since the 2 of them work here, I think it's very possible they're talking about Ashia matters. Tell me then, why did Naomi hide from us? Why did she appear out of nowhere and didn't even try to explain anything? Her actions are strange even if she's on the culprit side, but her face wasn't the one of someone who suddenly got trapped and looked for people for an entire hour. Her perspective might have been different from ours, being an Ashia employee that's aware of Sin's attacks. And I acknowledge that possibility. Her actions simply make it unlikely. We'll have to wait for them to come back. I'm sure they'll clarify all of this. Yeah, we decided to stay here to make sure they couldn't escape, but we were also waiting for you 4. If there are more than 2 of us, we can split ourselves through the first 3 floors while someone stays here to make sure they're confined below. Wouldn't they be able to use the elevator? Yes, but we would know. I meant to ask you guys about that. A few minutes ago, after Kate and Naomi left, we heard the elevator moving through our floor. Even though we were next to it, we weren't able to determine the direction it was going to. But since you'd gone to the 6th floor, it could only have been going down. We only heard it once. Oh, so that was the elevator. That made sense. It had been a deep noise that had lingered for a bit. Since it had been moving, the exact position and floor it had come from hadn't been easily distinguishable. As I thought, none of you used it. That's strange, right? We're sure it was the elevator because it made the same noise we heard when you used it on the lowest floor. Even if you decided to go back down for some reason, we found it appropriate to stay here. Are you sure it only moved one more time? Yeah, we were right next to it and only heard it once. That's why if Kate and Naomi use it, we'll know. Wait. Okay, so we heard it twice, they heard it once. Let me think about if that is reasonable in any way. So, Wait, do I have a log somewhere? Was it... Search. Yeah, when did they hear it? A few minutes ago. That's not very clear. Because I was thinking, did they hear the first or the second time the elevator went through? It doesn't... If we heard it twice, it doesn't make sense in any way, really. Because the thing is, Kate and Naomi were below both. And we, like both groups, and we were above Sai and Akaro. So there is no actual way for us to hear it twice without them hearing it twice as well. The people between both groups would have had to hear it the most. It doesn't really make sense any other way. So that's strange. Like, and they were saying they were paying attention to it too. What's possible is that they just weren't paying attention at first, but only heard the second time. Maybe. We could even call it and keep the door open. That way they wouldn't be able to use it at all. Right, that's what I thought you'd suggest. I stayed here for another reason too, which is why we didn't call it here and do that immediately. The sound might make it possible to anticipate the elevator. We might be quick enough to press the button before it goes past us. This would trap them inside it, and we could open the door before they could start moving again. I see. The sound from earlier doesn't make much sense though. We left the elevator on floor 6 and heard it moving on floor 5. As you said, it could only have been going down. Yeah, I don't get it. By floor 5, we knew nobody could have been above us. Is it possible someone snuck past you while you investigated? If all of you were inside the partitions without looking through the glass, it could have happened. I really don't think so. I stayed in front for the most part, and I really doubt I missed anyone. Well, if you didn't, then someone below us could have called it, and what we heard was the empty elevator. Huh. It must have been either Kate or Naomi, so if you didn't hear it again, they must have called it to then not use it. Right. Maybe they wanted it easily available on floor 1 if they needed to use it. We began to hear footsteps in the distance. We all quieted down at the same time, straining to hear if we'd imagined it. They didn't stop. The sound became more and more perceptible until it was clear that only one pair of legs was approaching. Let's see what's up. We stared at the staircase where the sound was coming from, until Kate's white hair peeked from below. When he saw all of us, he looked up with a plain face and stopped moving without making it all the way up. Where's Naomi? We went to the crystal floor, but she didn't want to come back. Why not? Sai's immediate reaction threw Kate off, and he took a few seconds to answer. During that time, he looked at the rest of us. It might have been just my impression, but it felt like he particularly fixed his eyes on me. She didn't explain it. I asked her to come since I knew I'd be highly suspected otherwise, but she refused. She left the room where we were, and I stayed there a few more minutes sorting my thoughts out before returning here. What did she talk about? About the incident, of course. It surprised me a bit, but her intention was to clear her name. She told me she hadn't done anything. That was what she wanted to talk to you about privately. Yes, I didn't believe her, though. You didn't? No, her words sounded forced, as if she was trying to cover herself up with lies. I know you've been suspecting me, but since I know I'm innocent, my main suspicions were directed to Naomi from the beginning. She saw her explanations weren't working and refused to appear before you all. She must have tried her luck with me because we've worked together for a long time. So she only wanted to convince you? Yes, I don't know why though. Even if she'd achieved that, it's not like she could have convinced the police. Hearing her justifications made me think even more that she's in some way involved in this. Even though she ran away, I didn't try to find her immediately, since I figured there was no way she could keep hiding. She still has to be somewhere on the crystal floor. Out of curiosity, did you ever call the elevator? The elevator? No. Why? We heard it moving down, so if it wasn't you, Naomi might have called it. It didn't go up again, though. I see, so she's definitely still under us. Regardless, what did Naomi tell you? What was it that made you suspect her even harder? She spat out nothing but inconsistencies. She said that she'd been trying to find help since waking up. She couldn't answer why she'd gone up to the office floor instead of aiding Irina's group or staying with everyone in the event room. She tried to make me believe that she'd been searching for people until now and that coincidentally she hadn't found us yet. There was no way I could have believed that. According to her, she had nothing to do with the power outage or the suitcase. She said she didn't see the suitcase the first time she went up, but that it was there when she came back down. I assume you didn't find anyone naturally. Right. Then that has to settle it. If nobody else is here, only she could have left the suitcase in hallway C. She almost broke down as she thought of more ways to explain herself. You'll see when we find her. By the way, when the elevator moved, couldn't it have been the higher group? Us? No, we didn't use it again. Is that so? And you didn't get separated? Again, he said that while looking directly at me. No, we stayed together until now. Are you sure? Why are you being so insistent? Do you have a reason to think we split up? Oh no, I don't think so. Forgive me, Aski. What the hell was up with him? That had sounded like a taunt without having felt like one. His behavior toward me had changed in some way. I didn't know the reason, but it felt like he was trying to incite me to say something. I'm sure they didn't split up. The four of them came from floor 5 and nobody could have gone past us while we were investigating floors 2 and 3. Alright then. As if we were all conspiring against him, he turned around and stopped moving. I was a bit puzzled trying to understand how to interpret his new attitude. Well, we will always be able to check the security footage once that's fixed. For now, we should make sure to find Naomi, I'd say. Implying one more time that there was more to our actions than we'd let on, he breathed slowly and started to go back down without turning around. Someone should stay here in case Naomi tries to go up. The rest of us will split downstairs to make sure she's found. Another person will also be needed to stay on floor 2 to make sure she doesn't intend to pointlessly go hide there. 3 will be enough to inspect the whole first floor. One person will stay in the lobby, the other in hallway C, and the last person will check every room in both hallways. She will not escape. The person at the lobby will look through hallway B and the one at hallway C will look through hallway A. This time Naomi won't be able to cross between hallways. Let's go. I'll stay in the lobby and check the mechanical room. Alright, that doesn't sound bad to me. I'll look through the rooms. I think I should be the one to do that. Isla and I will stay here since only 4 people are needed. We'll keep watch at the elevator. No, I'll look through the rooms too. Be a bit cooperative, Isla. I think staying here would be better for everyone. As if she hadn't heard her mother, Isla ran down the stairs. Instead of trying to convince her, the others thought it better to follow behind. Shira, Sai and I were the ones without an assigned position, which left us unaware of what to do. It's not ideal, but I'll quickly check through floors 3 and 2 with Akro's help and then stay in hallway C. You two make sure the elevator doesn't let Naomi escape. Without waiting for a reply, Sai left both of us on the 4th floor all by ourselves. Alright then, here we are. Hopefully they can find her and clear everything up. I can't imagine Naomi hiding from them unless she knows about some secret spot. Yeah, it won't take very long either. I'm curious to see what'll happen. It's unfortunate she appeared while we weren't there. But it's very likely she actually did appear since the 3 of them would have no reason to lie together. Were you thinking that maybe Naomi had never shown up? No, not really. I just couldn't take it completely seriously since we hadn't seen her. You thought Kate was lying to us earlier, right? Have you changed your mind? Thinking back on what Kate had just said, I wasn't sure how to approach it. I don't know. Honestly, everything Kate said regarding Naomi just now sounded very questionable, but it seemed like he really wanted us to find her. You heard how determined he sounded. I'm not sure he'd lie about what Naomi told him to then make us find her. So it's likely it was all the truth. I'm really not sure. Anyway, how are you holding up? Sorry, I've just been trying to think about it. We were both startled. Though louder and clearer, the same sound we'd heard earlier repeated. She took the elevator. Why would she run away? I recalled that Sai had said too late. We weren't close enough to stop it on the 4th floor. Trying to avoid wasting time, we ran toward the other side to arrive at her destination before we missed her. In our defense, we'd heard the sound when the elevator had been about to pass us by, so stopping it in time wouldn't have been possible. We should have just kept it open. I didn't think she would actually go up. And I didn't think fast enough, damn it. Sai just wanted us to keep them in place. What if she has the key to the 7th floor? This would all be useless. She's just gone at that point. Shiria ran behind me. I wanted to tell her to slow down and let me go by myself, but it would have been inconsiderate. If I thought going up was dangerous, I would have tried to make her stay behind, but if all Naomi was doing was running around defenseless, the odds were probably in our favor. Even though the floors were very wide, the path to the next one was straightforward enough to make it a quick trip. We arrived on floor 5. We thought the elevator hadn't stopped here because it had seemed to linger for a bit too long, but I still quickly went through the 3 partitions while Shiria stayed next to the first door. As I thought, they were empty. I met Shiria by the door with a dubious look. We would hear it if Naomi used the elevator to go back down, so there was no way she'd make it past us unnoticed. Nothing. She must be upstairs. We directed ourselves toward the 6th floor, but Shiria stopped me. Hold on, let's check this. She tried to open the elevator, but the door didn't budge. Since that meant it was above us, she pressed the button to call it. No, don't do it here, do it on the floor above. What's the point of doing it here? You need to know if she went to the 6th or the 7th floor. Obviously she's not here. Shortly, the button lit up orange in silence. Then Shiria opened the door and we saw the empty elevator. With how fast it got here, it must have been on the 6th floor. Are you sure about that? Technically, there was just one more possibility, the attic. A special key was needed though, and Shiria was right. The elevator had only taken a few seconds to arrive, indicating that there had only been a single floor of separation. Maybe, but why on earth would you not make sure and do it on the 6th floor? By moving it, we'd also prevented Naomi from using it upstairs. Okay, fair enough. I still think it would have been better the other way around. We quickly went up to the 6th floor where the elevator had been brought. It hadn't been used again, so someone had to remain there. It was likely Naomi was very close. The bathrooms were empty, so she had to be further ahead. I'll go check. Make sure nobody can leave. What? It might not be safe. Don't just go alone. With a meaningless head gesture, she ran off and left me by myself. She was clearly not content with the thought of waiting behind again. I knew I had to go with her. Letting someone escape was far less important than letting Shiria confront potential danger, but I couldn't bring myself to move. She had disappeared from my field of vision. Given the layout of the floor, she wouldn't be able to make sure nobody could sneak past her, so I had to wait behind in anticipation. If she first checked the opposite corridor and someone was hiding in the partitions, they could then escape. If someone was in the corridor and she chose to first inspect the partitions, they could also escape. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you have to stand near the stairs. You could at least go until the end of this corridor. However, such a thing didn't actually hold up at all. To inspect the corridor, she would only have to see if it was empty from a position that would still let her see the inside of the first partition. That could let the culprit escape, but at least they'd be seen. Yeah, exactly. I felt like she'd known I'd been about to ask her to stay behind, and had chosen to change our roles before I'd had a chance to. Trying not to let undesired thoughts get the best of me, I attempted to stay calm as Shiria had asked. Almost half a minute had passed, and I began to get impatient and a bit anxious. While the floor was big, it was also silent, so if she felt she was in danger, I would be able to hear her shout easily. Only a few seconds after that, I snapped. What was I doing standing there and leaving her up against an unknown person who had been involved in the attack? I took off running as soon as the realization finally came to me. Or I'd been about to, before I saw Shiria's figure coming out of the narrow passageway. She approached me slowly and noticed my anxiety. Did something happen? No, nothing. You took a bit, so I started to worry. Oh, really? I'm sorry. I didn't find anyone, though. How is that possible? There should have been someone. I know, but look, this is what I wanted to show you. Huh? Once again, she walked back to where she'd come from, instructing me to follow her. Had she found something important? Instead of stepping in front of the partitions, she continued toward the other corridor. Earlier we had deemed the corridor empty, so we quickly that we completely missed the door. What? Yes, look, but it's closed. She was right. At the far back of what had appeared to be a dead end, there was a small door that we'd entirely missed. That's just the door to the 7th floor, isn't it? Of course, we were told this door existed. It looked just like a plain door. Instinctively, I reached for the doorknob and tried to get it open to no avail. It was very tightly locked. Under it was a big keyhole that would require an equally big key to unlock the special section of the tower. So, past this door must be the attic, where Ashia lived for years. Yes, it has to be that. There must be different stairs leading up to it, since it's a floor higher. Right, so it's very likely whoever came up here had a way to open this door. There's no other explanation, really. I thought about it a little, and that doesn't make sense to me. I looked through this corridor first, and since you were covering the only exit, I knew I had plenty of time, so I walked farther and realized we'd missed this door. I tried to open it, but it was already locked. Then I went to the partitions, which were empty. Since nobody could have left this floor, the only explanation is that they went through here. What doesn't make sense to me is that they got off on this floor with the elevator. Yes. You're right, we determined it was here, so if whoever used it was able to open this door, they would have just taken the elevator all the way up. Yes? Yeah, Kate said earlier that the required key works for both the door and the elevator. I tried to look through the keyhole and under the door, but nothing could be seen. Was there someone behind it, possibly listening to us? We went up fast, so I doubt they could have taken the elevator up to the attic and then sent it to the 6th floor to conceal where they'd gone. Yeah, we experienced how slow it was. There wouldn't have been time for that. I thought that maybe this door was already unlocked or that they had the key hidden somewhere on this floor. I doubt the door was unlocked. We could have easily found it earlier, so they wouldn't have let us enter it like that. Also, it's locked now. If it was actually open, unless it can be manually locked from the inside, they must have had the key. I stayed quiet for a bit. Were we on the right line of thinking? If the culprit had access to the attic, a few things we'd considered would be invalidated. What if the elevator was empty? And someone sent it here from the crystal floor? Possible. I'm not sure what the intention would be, but it's possible whoever sent it was hoping to lure us out of where we were. True, absolutely possible. Oh yeah, if they wanted to get to the 4th floor, they could have sent the elevator to make us follow it. But that seems pointless. It would give them time, but they'd still be cornered. It's very easy to inspect every floor. And Sai did say that he would check the 2nd and 3rd floors before staying in hallway C. Unless he was the one who moved it, the culprit would have also had to make it past him. Such a theory sounded very unlikely, but if it was right, we'd soon find out. We couldn't know if the elevator had moved before the others had reached the crystal floor. I was also thinking that if the person we're searching for has access to the attic, they might have been responsible for the first time we heard the elevator. We made sure floors 5 and 6 were empty, but if that person was one floor higher, they could have called the elevator resting on floor 6 and then gone down with it. That would explain why it didn't immediately go back up. True. Then the same person must have been who used it just now. It's possible they got off on floor 6 instead of the attic because they knew it would be empty and could easily reach this floor. Yeah, that assumption, if Naomi started in the attic and wasn't actually hiding on the crystal floor somewhere, then that puts Naomi on top, the other group at the bottom, and us in the middle, making it again logical that we heard the elevator the most times. If we noticed the elevator and followed it, it would appear that the elevator had been empty, but if they had gone directly to the attic instead, we could have noticed that it had arrived there if we quickly called the elevator. I see. Something along these lines might make the most sense. We should go see if the others found Naomi. We slowly walked back. I'd always seen Shiria as a smart person, and she had just shown that sharing my thoughts with her was a good idea despite her recent frame of mind. Perhaps she had been silently thinking by herself until then. Regardless, that had been the longest conversation we'd had in many days, but it already felt like we were many steps closer to normalcy. I knew things wouldn't quite feel right for a much longer time, but if we went back to being our normal selves around each other, we could get there much quicker. I'd kept thinking about it lately. I didn't know if the fact that my main wish to go back to how things used to be meant that I was a bad person, but I couldn't change the way I felt. Before we reached the staircase, we noticed that quiet footsteps were approaching. Fast but quick, yes. We stopped awkwardly and waited to see who they belonged to. It was Akro. He came running from floor 5. What are you doing here? We need you two to come to the crystal floor. Did you find Naomi? No, quite the opposite. Sai said that all of us should be here. I should be there to discuss what happened. Alright, let's go then. Akuro, out of breath, turned around without wasting time. I didn't think you'd be on the highest floor. Weren't you supposed to wait on the fourth? We began to go down the stairs. Meanwhile, we told Akuro that we'd determined the elevator had stopped on the 6th floor and that we hadn't found anyone. Our conversation continued as we quickly circled through floors 5 and 4. Akuro was hurrying up a fair bit, having not given us much context. Alright, well, we vaguely heard the elevator going up too, but Sai told us not to chase it since you two would take care of it and could have been sent as it could have been sent as bait. Yeah, it's just wrong. I suppose he gave us too much credit. We didn't react immediately, but I doubt we could have intercepted it. Those were the last words we heard during the way down, as neither of them chose to reply with anything else. Once we'd made it to the last set of stairs, we slowed down our pace as I began to think about what could have happened to warrant the demand of our immediate presence. The others were all next to the stairs, waiting for us. That took a bit. Where were you? On the 6th floor. Oh, so you had to check every floor. I just ran up hoping to eventually find them, and they said they hadn't seen anyone. It's where the elevator stopped, but we're not sure anyone came out of it. So I was right. For some reason they just wanted it to be followed. I doubt it, honestly. They could only gain time doing that, which, given there are 11 hours left, seems silly. It's possible that they don't know that they've been trapped here for 12 hours, but they can't be simply trying to buy themselves time. I think they actually might have escaped by using the elevator. How? Before that, why don't you tell us what happened? Was Naomi here? I couldn't see her, so it was safe to assume that wasn't the case. I wanted to get straight to the point before suggesting that the person hiding from us might have had access to the attic. We haven't looked through the whole floor yet, actually. I quickly made sure nobody was on the 3rd and 2nd floors, while the others prevented anyone from sneaking past. That was when the elevator was used, and I assume you couldn't stop it. No, we weren't expecting it so soon. Whatever. We went to the 1st floor and Kate's search method was put into effect. He went ahead and looked through the lobby and the mechanical room. When he was done, he stayed next to the door leading to hallway B. Akuro began to look through the hallway B rooms, having previously looked at the bathrooms. Isla wanted to join him, so Erina had to follow behind. The three of them started to enter the rooms while I stayed here, looking at hallway A so that nobody could escape. Since the elevator had already gone up, it was pointless to call it and leave its door open. I couldn't see the three of them looking inside the room since I was staring at the other hallway and blocking the staircase there. Anyway. Apparently when they entered the event room, Isla went ahead and raised the curtain of the cabinet. The "it's gone" shout I heard even from here conveyed her surprise pretty well. What? The Sekimeiya is gone? Yes, it should have still been there, but I didn't see it anywhere. Kate abandoned his position after hearing Isla's shout, but I didn't want to rush inside and leave an easy escape route open. When they came and told me what had happened, I thought you two had to come. Since we're dealing with this situation, I found it appropriate to join up and make sure nothing slipped away. I told Akuro to go find you, and I took that time to check if it truly had disappeared while the others waited here. It did. I stayed there a while, thinking about what could have happened and expecting to find you two when I came back. Anyway, many rooms have not yet been investigated. We stayed here until you came back to secure the only exits. I understand. It's good that the stairs and the elevator are next to each other. Can I go see it? If you're looking forward to seeing an empty cabinet, go ahead. As long as someone stays here, we can move through this floor. Everyone else had been looking at us without uttering a word. Shiroya and I slowly walked toward hallway A, and as we saw that nobody was stopping us, we sped up to the event room. It's really not here. I suppose he was right. There wasn't much of a point in checking. Not really. We left through the same door and approached the others as I thought about it. What had happened? Were there really that many possibilities? Was it gone or did we all lie? Apparently not. The Sekimeiya has been stolen this early, which is surprising. Anyone have a suggestion regarding what could have happened before we resume our search? It could only have been Naomi, right? No, It could only have been Naomi, Kate, or an unknown person. What about Isla?
Will you never stop suspecting me?
It seems not. When we split up in two groups, it's possible either Naomi or an unknown person had already stolen the Sekimeiya. That's very easy to construct. When we were in hallway B, Naomi could have entered the event room from hallway A, for example. The group that took the elevator, Atsuki, Shira, Erina, and Isla, couldn't have gotten to this floor.
Are you sure? It's possible they went past us and we didn't notice.
You already tried to say this earlier, didn't you? They couldn't have done that. The way we looked through the floors would have made that impossible, and they couldn't have used the elevator since we only heard it once. And naturally, when you came here with Naomi, you would have had an easy time picking up the Sekimeiya and then hiding it somewhere. Later we'll check that mechanical room you were happy to inspect.
This is ridiculous. Didn't I say how important it was for the Sekimeiya to stay in its cabinet? Why would I hide it? There aren't even places to hide it in this building, and it would be pointless.
I will admit that I have no idea what your reason could be, but similarly I can't think of one regardless of who the culprit is. As you say, there aren't many hiding spots, and it's very early for this. If one thing's for sure, it's that right now the Sekimeiya must be on this floor with the culprit. There's no other possibility unless you question me and think that Akira and I could have gone down instead of waiting on floor 4. I don't believe that's true. You looked through floors 3 and 2 for Naomi, but if the Sekimeiya was left there, you might have missed it. Why does it have to be here anyway? Why can't Naomi just have taken it after she split up with Kate and gone up the elevator and is now in the attic? Oh, correct, that's a possibility too, but since the elevator that went up was probably empty, nobody can be upstairs now to go pick it up and hide it further, so we can easily look for it above if nothing's found on this floor. Why are you assuming it was empty? Even though floors 2 and 3 were a possibility, I knew it was also very possible that the culprit had gone to the attic holding the Sekimeiya. Yeah, exactly. It's much more likely in fact that they were still here. If our search amounted to nothing, I would bring up the conclusion Shira and I had reached. Let's proceed then. We'll need to start from the beginning. Someone else go look through the lobby and the mechanical room though. Maybe we should start with that one. I directed my look at the room where the gemstones had been stolen, A5. Because of the camera? Yes. Like Sai said, hiding anything on this floor right now seems weird since we should be able to find it easily. We have plenty of time and it's not a hard task, not to mention that even if we can't find it, Ashia surely will. It feels pretty redundant. But there must be an actual reason behind it, and if they really intended to hide it from us, a room that's not being recorded seems to be the most likely place. Even if it's found, Ashia will never be able to look at the footage to see who hid it. This is a bit confusing though. It's true that our 3 suspects are Kate, Naomi, and an unknown person. All of them would have had access to the Sekimeiya while we were asleep, so I wonder why they didn't hide it then. That's true. Well, we can check there first if someone stays here. Sai walked to the room and gestured at me to follow him. Everyone else stayed next to the stairs, as it wasn't yet a thorough search that would require further positioning. Let's see. We should keep the door open, otherwise we won't see anything. At first glance there wasn't anything odd in the room. It all looked as it had when we'd last been there. Even though cabinets were the only thing inside, Sai started slowly examining them. I began looking through the opposite side of the room. Shortly I confirmed that places to hide a small object certainly existed. Behind the cabinets, under the pillows that normally held gemstones, a cabinet even had empty drawers. As I looked at Sai, I realized that even though their looks were nearly identical, not every cabinet was the same. He was looking inside the expansive interior of a cabinet after he'd opened up the heavy-looking lid. It seemed that the upper sections where the gemstones usually were could be lifted up. Is there anything there? Yes, some of these have hollow interiors, most likely to store things. Look though. I had to get close to him as the lack of illumination made it impossible to see what he was holding. There was nothing noteworthy. He was cupping a small yellow gemstone on his palm. They must keep some of these inside the cabinets to swap out the displayed ones. Apparently not all of this room's valuables were stolen. I see. I guess this could make for a decent hiding spot. Sort of. The others were taking a while earlier, so they probably opened up some cabinets too. It's still an obvious spot if you're trying to find something. I went ahead and opened up a cabinet that looked like the one Sai was next to. It was a lot easier than it looked, and a wide but completely empty compartment appeared before me. As all the displayed pieces were usually attached to the surface below the glass, when the lid was opened up like a chest, they didn't roll. There's nothing in this one. Yeah, the first one I looked at was empty as well. Not many more cabinets were left. Shortly after that, we had looked through all of them. Seems you were wrong. It's not here. I started to go over the cabinets Sai had looked through to be confident. Do you doubt my searching abilities, or do you think I hid it here and ignored it? Neither. I just want to make sure we don't miss anything. I answered without looking at him. It didn't take me long to come to the same conclusion. The Sekimeiya was not in a room. Are you done? It'll take forever if every room takes us this long. We should probably look for anyone on this floor and then do a slower search for the Sekimeiya. The chances of someone and the Sekimeiya being here are pretty much the same. That could be a good idea. Let's go back. When he turned around, I fixed my eyes on Sai's back, specifically at the hip pack going around his waist. He stopped when he noticed I was still staring at him. You looking at this? He turned it around him and showed me its contents. I could only see a wallet and lip balm appropriate for the cold. Don't be stupid. It might fit in here, but it would be more than noticeable. Did you think I'd found it and masterfully put it in here without your notice? Oh, no, I was just looking at it. I quite like it too. One of these birthday presents I first shrugged off and then ended up using frequently. Once again, he turned around and quickly left the room. I sighed and followed his steps. Outside, he was already next to the others. Anything? Nothing. I tried to think of places where the Sekimeiya could have been hidden, but I couldn't come up with any good ones. If it was still on the crystal floor, we should have been able to find it. In a locker, maybe? That's the only safe place I can think of. Oh, how about there? The suitcase was still on the floor of hallway C. Did they bank on us not checking it again? As I got closer to it, my confidence in that theory decreased. Surely they hadn't relied on such a simple trick. It was still empty. Let's start then. I suppose checking the bathrooms again is pointless since nobody could have entered them. Without waiting, Akro stood up and headed toward hallway B. Isla followed behind, which obligated Erina to go with them. Let's continue with hallway A, actually. It's about time we find out if someone else is here, so let's first check for that. Akro, before you move on to hallway B, look through the mechanical room too. Mind being the one in the lobby this time, Atsuki? Kate and I will stay here to watch hallway B. Sure. The others accepted it easily and began with hallway A, ignoring the room we'd just gotten out of. Presumptuous as it was, Sai could have kept ordering us around as long as it was efficient. Since Shia didn't have a fixed position, she moved to the lobby door with me. From there, we looked at the 3 people checking every room. Akro led the pack. My first idea had been that someone might have left the Sekimeiya inside a room without active security cameras. While the first location had been incorrect, that was still the most likely possibility. 5 other rooms that met that criterion were still available. The staff room, the cleaning room, the mechanical room, the security room, and the storeroom. I looked inside the cleaning bucket, the only place in the lobby where the Sekimeiya could have been hidden from view, but it only contained soapy water. The storeroom was examined, but they were just quickly looking for people, not the Sekimeiya. It was very possible it was in one of those rooms, and if, for example, Naomi had put it inside her locker in the staff room, there wasn't much we could do about it. That was one of the only good hiding spots I could think of. They entered the event room once again, then the security room, another place that allowed for an easy way to it without being spotted by cameras, was acknowledged as clean. Once I'd seen them come out of every room and claim that nobody had been in them, Akira went to look at the mechanical room. Even though Isla remained outside, uninterested, Erina joined him as well. They took a considerably longer time with it, since the messy interior made a proper search difficult. Once they returned, their looks indicated that, again, nothing of relevance had been found inside, refuting Sai's suspicion. Afterward, they moved on to hallway B. Shiria and I walked to the hallway B toward door 2, as it wasn't necessary to keep watching A any longer. As soon as it had been deemed empty, the only remaining concern was whether someone could move from hallway B to A through the event room, and since Sai and Kate had watched hallway B, it wasn't a real possibility. Technically, only 2 people were needed to optimally search through the whole floor as long as someone stayed next to the stairs while looking into hallway A. Then the other person could safely look through every room. We'd only been doing it differently because it was what Kate had suggested. They started from the rooms on the lobby side onward. Shirya and I could clearly see Sai and Kate standing on the other exit of the hallway, enacting tight control over the few rooms that remained for Naomi or an extra person to be inside. If nobody was found in them, the possibility Shio and I had come up with would be almost confirmed, that the actual culprit had been in the attic until we'd heard the elevator going down, and that they brought the Sekimeiya up with them to hide on a floor we couldn't access. As that theory grew more likely, I thought further on it and quickly picked up on an important inconsistency. Akuro and Sai had said that when they'd heard the elevator sound, Naomi had already shown up and left with Kate. If that was the case, Naomi could not have been in the attic the way I'd constructed my theory. To make it work, I had to slightly change it. Oh, that was right. Yeah, they said they heard it a few minutes after they'd met up. Nothing was out of place if we'd missed Naomi when we'd inspected the crystal floor together. She'd gone up to the 3rd floor to talk with Kate, and then had called the elevator to keep it on the 1st floor. Later, she'd used it to move to the attic as soon as she'd obtained the Sekimeiya, probably because she realized she couldn't convince Kate. Yeah, but that still doesn't make any sense, right? If she'd been on the crystal floor initially, and she'd gone up to the 3rd floor to talk with Kate, and then called the elevator to keep it on the 1st floor, that's only one elevator noise, but we heard the elevator twice. The first 3 rooms were handled with ease. The others kept going and looked through the event room once again, despite the fact that it was impossible anything in it had changed. Nonchalantly, almost forgetting what could have been resting in any of the rooms, Akuro opened the door in front of it. He looked inside and his body froze. From afar, I was able to see his expression shifting to a blank and pale one. With his hand on the doorknob, he turned around, frantically trying to meet someone's gaze. What has Sai found in there? Oh, it was Akuro, sorry. What has Akuro found in there? We'll find out next time. For now, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys again next time. Till then, bye.